What's up guys, it's Rowan here from Art of Smart TV. Now when it comes to NAPLAN, the truth and the reality is how your child performs has probably got very little to do with their understanding and capability. And unfortunately everything to do with how confident they are in sitting exams in exam conditions. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing 10 tips, 10 practical things that you can do to support your child do their best and reach their potential in their upcoming NAPLAN exams. The first tip in supporting your child take NAPLAN for this year is to actually ask them how they're feeling about it. In some cases they might not have even given it any thought, and so maybe it's a useful question, but in other cases they might actually be feeling a little anxious about it, a little nervous. And so to help you identify how you can best support them prepare for it as effectively as possible is to actually ask them how they're feeling, and maybe they need some encouragement. And so what that'll at least do is give you a sense of how they're feeling about it. Are they confident? Are they not? Are they anxious? Are they not? And therefore, what are some of the things that you might need to do to actually support them and get a little bit more confident and get a little bit more prepared for the exam. So that's tip number one. So the second tip to help your child do as well as possible for NAPLAN is that they really need to get familiar with the structure of the exam. Now that doesn't necessarily mean they have to go and do a whole lot of practice papers and pass NAPLAN, but it certainly helps. Not from the sense of that it's going to enable them to rote learn the material that they need, but if it's the first time you've done something and you're walking into a stressful situation, an exam environment, and you've never seen the paper before and you've never seen the structure before, it's going to be even more overwhelming and more stressful. So the goal here is, get out a past year's NAPLAN paper and get your child to just go through it, do a practice run so they can get familiar with the big picture of how it's structured, what sort of questions to expect, how long it generally takes, the timing, so that way when they actually turn up on the day, they're going to feel a little more confident. There's going to be less anxiety about it, and they're actually going to be able to do their best on the day in the exam because they're more familiar with what it requires of them. So tip number 3, you want to help your child get comfortable with the online test version of NAPLAN. Now since 2018, there's been progressive rollouts of NAPLAN online, and once again this changes the experience from physical pen and paper filling out forms to how they engage with it online. And so you really once again want to reduce the variables between the NAPLAN day and how your child's feeling and what they've done in practice. So just get them to jump online, and we've linked in the article below a bunch of different places you can get online NAPLAN practice tests as well. So you want to do a practice run with them, help them get confident and familiar with the online experience so that on the day when they turn up and they have to do it, it's not a freak out for them, it's something that they feel familiar with and therefore more confident with. So tip number 4, help your child plan how they're going to use their time in the exam. Often what can happen is students can get in and lose track of the time or get stuck on a question. And then they run out of time to complete the paper and have to rip through and just guess. So a simple thing that you can do is when your child does a practice test to familiarize themselves with everything, see how they go for time, and afterwards run through and sit down with them and have a conversation about how long they should spend on each part, to make sure that they don't run out of time. Right? And if they did run out of time, help them identify where they got stuck, and if it was getting stuck on a question, suggest a strategy on how they could handle that on the actual NAPLAN day. So if get stuck, spend a couple of minutes, then move on. Is a really simple one that you could use with them so they know not to spend too long on a single question, but to stick broadly to the time requirements that are needed for NAPLAN. So tip number 5, you want to discuss with your child how to tackle certain types of questions. And the reason for this is that often when a student gets into an exam and they see a question that they're either unfamiliar with or they don't know how to solve, what tends to happen is it tends to either cause like a freak out, where they don't know what to do, and a panic, or often correlated, just simply guessing and not thinking and just picking something at random. So it's actually a really good opportunity to help your child before they go in develop a couple of simple strategies on how to tackle certain questions. So for example, if they've got a multiple choice, actually teach them a process of elimination. So they know, okay, I should try to eliminate the ones that I know 100% not right, so I'm left with the ones that are possibly right, so then I can guess and I've maximized my chances of guessing correctly. Or if it's a question where they don't understand a word, right, to get them to think about and to go through the motion of contextualizing the word in the broader sentence. So it's just to give them a couple of simple strategies they can use. So if they see a question on the day that they don't understand, they don't either panic or simply guess. They actually do, a process which will result hopefully in a more accurate answer than otherwise. So tip number 6 is to help your child brainstorm topics for the writing component of NAPLAN. So in NAPLAN, there will be a writing component. They'll need to write an informative or a narrative or a persuasive piece of writing. And one of the things that I constantly see is students really struggling to come up with ideas. Ideas are not easy to do. And so one of the things you can do is in the practice question that you might be doing with them to help them get confident and familiar, is to actually use that as an opportunity to do some brainstorming with them on different topics they could be using for their narrative, their imaginative, or their persuasive response. And the key here is not so that they're the exact topics that they will then use in the NAPLAN, because the question could be entirely different. But it's more about, once again, actually teaching them the process of how to brainstorm. When they get a topic, they get a question, they're like, oh, I don't know what to write about, I don't have any ideas, is to actually give them some simple tools so they're able to, when they go, okay, well, great, and come up with a little bit of a brainstorm, a mind map, so they have some ideas for the day. So super simple. Tip number 6, help your child actually learn how to brainstorm and map out topic ideas for the writing component of NAPLAN. So tip number 7 is to support your child in getting a good night's sleep the day before. Now this might seem pretty obvious, but often students, can want to stay up or they're nervous and anxious. Now, sleep will play a huge impact on their performance the next day. Not only does a good night's sleep improve short and long-term memory, it improves decision making, math processing, and cognitive performance overall. So, whether or not they've had a good sleep or not, it's actually going to play a huge impact on whether or not they turn up on the day and give it their best shot. So what can be really important is just help them get to sleep early that night. Help them fall into the same routine that would normally be the case for their sleep, if it's a good one, so that you're not changing anything about it. It's a normal day, it's a normal night, and they're getting lots of sleep, so they're ready to give their best the next day. So tip number 8, help your child stick to their normal morning routine the day of the exams. And this is really important because you want to normalize the day and the exam as much as possible for your child. So, on the morning of the exam, don't make a big day of it. Make it part and parcel of the normal routine that you would do any day in getting ready for school and going to school. The more you can normalize it, the less stress and anxiety and anxiousness they may feel about it, which will help them perform at their best in the exam. So tip number 9 is to transition the focus from marks to the process. So often, as you talk about marks, a lot of students can feel quite anxious, that there's pressure on themselves to actually get a certain mark. And I think the important thing is that the mark itself in NAPLAN as well isn't actually what's important, it's the learning experience and what it tells you as a parent about maybe where they need some more help and support because there's some gaps. But 2, also for them, it's going to be one of the first, depending on if it's year 3 or year 5, sort of major exams or assessments that they're sitting. So you can actually use it as an opportunity and encourage them to treat it as a learning experience, to identify what worked for them in doing a big exam and test like this and what didn't work, so they can take those learnings to improve their exam preparation and exam technique as they move into senior school. So to shift the focus from the marks to what they actually learnt from the experience and maybe what they would do differently the next time, because ultimately they're going to have to take it over a couple of years, 3, 5, 7 and 9, it's 4 times, so they're going to have to do it again. And so really you can actually encourage them to look at it as a learning experience for future improvement. So my final suggestion for you is to be positive and create some perspective for your child. They might come home after the first day of NAPLAN and have really struggled and found it really challenging and be a little down about it. And so one of the most important things you can do is be positive and encouraging for them because they're going to have another day. But additionally also to change the focus on what happened to what they can change and what they can do differently the next day. So to get them future focused rather than past focused. So have a conversation with them about, like what didn't go so well, but then what they could do differently. and what they're going to do differently for the next day, for tomorrow, for their NAPLAN. The final thing as well is that sometimes students can build up in their head the consequences of what they think will happen if they haven't done super well. So you can often ask them, what do you think is going to happen here? What's the worst that is going to happen? And often when you deal with worst case and students discover that it's really not all that bad at all, in fact it's not at all, it can often take some of the anxiety and stress off and even help them perform better the next day or the next time. So there you have it, 10 tips to help your child more effectively reach their potential in their NAPLAN exams. If you do need any support on the journey, right, I've shared a bunch of principles and maybe you think, well, I don't still know enough and I'd prefer someone else to have this conversation with my child because my child doesn't listen to me. I need someone else that can speak to them and build a rapport with them, then we can help. We've got an incredible team of teachers, tutors and mentors across Sydney and at our campus in Hornsby that are available to help. So get in touch with us, visit our website at artofsmart.com.au or give us a call on 1300 267 888 and have a chat to one of our friendly team who can get a better understanding and get to know your child a little bit better, understand what their needs are, and then make a recommendation for a match with one of our team who we think could be a good fit to support them. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to help you as a parent on your journey as you support your child go through the whole NAPLAN journey. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We bring videos every single week, so that way I'll see you next week.